Welcome, everyone, and thank you for staying with us. This is part two of the topic When the Blank Page Feels Like a Wall. We will continue our conversation, and the next panelist is Dr. Choen Yin Chan. And Helen, would you like to share your experience of, those, or a moment maybe, when you face that blank um, wall?
hmm okay, so
Yeah.
I don't have any slides. I'm just going to talk. Um, but actually, I think I share a lot of what Mohammed was talking about. I know he started talking about, I think everyone struggles with writing. Um, I
Mm.
I struggle a lot with writing. So this whole idea of the blank page and the wall, like I think it's always a wall. Um, and but it's a part of the job, as a researcher, it's actually, a really important part of the job, so we have to overcome it. And I think I've always disliked writing, which is quite, it's ironic because obviously as a teacher, we are teaching students how to write. I teach academic writing. I give a lot of suggestions on students writing, what Mohammed was saying, like teaching students how to kind of research, giving feedback on their written work. But when it's yourself, it still feels like such um, a big challenge. And so my probably the biggest writing challenge I have ever had is the writing of the my PhD thesis, which in a traditional format is around 80,000 words. So it's like a whole book and it's made of chapters which need to be coherent. And it's quite a daunting task, especially if you don't like writing. So, and I share what Mohammed said, feeling that I've always felt like I'm not very good at writing. And I think it's more of a psychological issue. Like, I don't think it's that I'm really bad at it, but I don't like what I write. And it's also this feeling quite uncomfortable or maybe slightly embarrassed about sharing that writing. Which again, I think is a psychological issue. And I think a lot of us struggle with it. It's not necessarily because we're not good at it. Um, and so I really struggled actually with writing the thesis because at the start I had a few chapters done kind of in the earlier stages of my PhD, but then I took quite a large break kind of after doing like the early chapters. I took time out from the PhD for family reasons. There was also COVID. I switched to part-time. I was balancing, work and teaching and a lot of other things. Um and so there was quite a large gap. And then I came back to try to write like the analysis chapter, the findings chapters, the discussion chapters, which is, like half of the thesis. And that felt like quite a difficult task. And I think the more difficult the task is, the more we avoid it. And the more we kind of, uh, kind of it gets delayed, sorry, and it becomes harder. Um, and like Mohammed said, a lot of us do things last minute, like last minute deadlines. We really have a final push and we do a lot of very constructive work in the end. But that's not possible when it's like 40,000 words, right? So it's you have to plan and you have to get things done because I cannot finish this in the final few days. I must plan ahead. And so for me, you just have to get writing. You just have to but the big issue for me was I had so much data, so many stories that I wanted to write. I was unsure of how I wanted to present it or which parts to present because I had to give up some of it. I couldn't put everything in there. And so it becomes quite difficult. And I think at the end I just had to decide to start writing from the most interesting part and just start putting something down and then think I will edit it later. Um, because the longer we delay and the more we think, okay, I want to have this planned out, I want it to be perfect. I mean, like Mohammed said, it's not really possible. And, there's no perfect way, is there? So you just have to get something done. And yeah, so I think the best thing for me is just to start writing. And another thing is I find it really difficult to like some people say, oh, just write a little bit every day, or just, when you've got time. I find that really difficult. So I feel that I need to make space and plan time. So I give myself half a day or like a full day, and I organize things like, very proactive with organizing writing days. And like Mohammed said, getting your friends, your peers, and working together in a space. I really like co-working, so finding someone who can, we're not working together. They are working on their work, I'm working on my work, but we sit together. Like I find that quite productive as well. So I feel that I have a goal today, and I feel that I'm going to promise myself that I will make some progress, and I will write something. That's always really useful. And I think the last part, like again, I think Mohammed mentioned this, using your supervisors or your tutors or your peers. And I think I really struggled with that at the start. And I always felt like I didn't want to send something to my supervisor if it was unfinished. I wanted to have a full draft. But the more I delayed, the more I realized I'm not going to have a full draft. So I think I had to open up to the idea of sharing something that was unfinished, that was not perfect. Um, and then get some constructive feedback. So, and it depends on the supervisor, but my supervisor was quite open to seeing work that was unfinished and then giving me comments on, if it was making sense, what's my plan here, tell me what's missing. And then these little things become like a little to-do list. So they're like little tasks that I can then follow up on, which is better than just me trying to work on a full draft but not knowing where to go. Um, and I think I also share what Mohammed said about feeling quite embarrassed about sharing the work, kind of criticizing your own work, feeling like it doesn't make sense. Um, but like you said, we're very limited in time. We're very busy, so we just have to try to get things done if we can. And I don't even have very, very high expectations of my own work. I'm not looking like it's not meant to be really smart or really creative. It just has to be clear. Like I just want it to be clear so that when someone reads it, they know what the points I'm trying to make. Um, but yeah, I think writing is really difficult, and I think we have to have these kinds of strategies that work for us. Like if you know what works for you, you do it. And I think, you know, um, now this year I'm working as a research fellow, and I have these tasks which I need to write. And actually, they're not as difficult as the thesis. They're much shorter pieces, but the difficulty is there's no set deadline because they're my own deadlines. There's no one telling me you have to do this by this, by this time or publish it whenever. Like they're my own deadlines, which then um is a bit difficult because you don't have that upcoming deadline, which pushes you a bit further. So we really need to make these plans. But yeah, so that's me.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I can see now the patterns, isn't it? We can see
Mm.
all the strategies that help us to achieve and being able to complete a big task. Because when you see it like that, I need to write an assignment, I need to write a dissertation, I need to write a thesis. It becomes like that big task that, as
Mm.
you guys shared, breaking it down into smaller tasks, and given deadlines. um we can see, that those strategies are really, really helpful. Um, Amalina is here. Yay! Hello, Amalina,
Yay.
and welcome
Yeah.
to Amalina, who's a PhD researcher at the University of Manchester, undertaking this, big research project, and also having a deadline to submit soon, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
story. So tell us, you know, tell us about that story when the blank page feels like a wall.
Okay. So I'm going to share a very personal vignette, which is
Mm.
I wrote this when I was having difficulty putting my ideas on papers, and it's like whatever that I was doing at the moment felt wrong. So I'm going to share this part. Like, it's a really short one. Every morning, she walks to the office like a Victorian ghost. quiet, solemn, questioning all her life choices. Unlike this peaceful street outside, her mind is in chaos. She walks to the far end table and settles in, switched on her laptop, and stares into the abyss of her Word document. Where is this going, really? The question is like a daily mantra for her. Occasionally, she types something. Occasionally, she deletes it with great dramatic flair, as if performing for an invisible, disappointed audience. Conversations are rare, unless you count the whispered, "Why am I like this?" into her tea. So she shows up, not exactly out of inspiration, but more out of grim academic momentum. She will finish the thesis, or the thesis will finish her. Either way, someone is going to finish soon. We'll see. So that was what I wrote back when I felt stuck. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this?
Yes.
And there was one time when I think it was during the time when I had to uh, finalize my data analysis approach section, and I really didn't know how to approach it. I walked home one night, springtime, and it was raining. I walked home crying, like I didn't know what I felt at that moment. You know, like the emptiness, the like you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that, so you ended up crying. So I walked home um, at night in the dark, and I called my sister, and my sister panicked, like, what should I do? Like, obviously she couldn't do anything, and it was like she was on her night shift. She's a nurse, so she was on her night shift at the time, and I didn't I felt like I wanted to call her, and I was just crying. I didn't say anything. I cried the whole, like from the office to my place. I just cried the whole time. And she's in Malaysia for context, and she couldn't do anything anyway. And she was just there listening to my cry. Um, but yeah, so that is my personal story when I think like whatever I did at the time felt wrong. Whatever I tapped in felt it didn't make sense at all. So and also it's like um, I am a direct Asian product where we Asian like we are product driven. When we have when I was in at school, like during my younger years, I was taught that you are only productive if you could produce something at the end of the day. So when I didn't write anything on that day, I felt very unproductive. I was very unkind to myself. Like I put the pressure on me. And then I talked to few people, and Nayeli was one of them. And she came with this approach where um, every day write down what you have written on that day. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like 1,000 words or 500 words. Even if you wrote 200 words, that is a small win that you have to celebrate. Put it on notes. So what I did now is that I created a document on OneNote. So I put it like what is my goal today, what I've written today. So even if it's just a small thing, you are still progressing. You are getting there. You are progressing. So my point is, um, even if it's a small thing, it is still a step that helps you to move forward. So just remember that you are here not to impress anyone, but to progress. And also, um, in the process, be brave to share your vulnerability to other people. Sometimes that is the thing that helps you, showing your vulnerability or be vulnerable in front of people. Sometimes that helps in the process. And above all, just be kind to yourself. Don't be too hard. Yeah. PhD is important, but your health, you yourself, is much more important.
Yes. Thank you very much for that honest story. I think you would touch upon aspects that, Helen and Muhammad have also discussed. The idea of an understanding, I think, writing as a process, it takes time. It is hard. Even if you have multiple languages, it is hard to get something written in paper in your own language. Now doing it in a different language, and the social expectation, social pressure. You don't want to disappoint, supervisors, colleagues, da, da, da. So it is hard. It is a hard, difficult process. One of the things that I wrote down on my notes is, you know, deciding when to continue drafting and redrafting something, or deciding to stop there and move on to the next bit, and come back to editing and doing something uh, um, for a later moment, with a point of progressing, is one of the things that I heard from the three of you, as well as that feeling of being stuck, uh, but also all the positive actions taken to be able to overcome that moment of feeling that you need to progress, but you don't know how, or that you don't know when to start, how to start, what to, what to do first. um, there's a lot of actions. There's this proactiveness here, which I think is also part of the process of being able to manage a big project, being able to sit down and move on and carry on with the process. So thank you to the three panelists for sharing these honest stories. I hope that the stories resonate with all of us, and that they offer, some thoughts, some ideas for us to get us and to carry on doing what we're doing. If you're studying, if you're doing research, whatever it is that you're doing, hopefully these stories are useful